Kembe me before Africa. Misère pral fini. Africa. Kembe me before Africa. Tout monde pral fini. Africa. Tout la kembe la, les jours ça va arriver. La kembe la, les jours ça va arriver. Jou te livré Africa, petit tout yo gen pour chanter. Yo mélodie qui pa pe jamais fini. Africa, Africa. Jou te livré Africa, petit tout yo gen pour chanter. Yo mélodie qui pa pe jamais.
Chapeau bas. Like they say in Creole, Aibobo for all my viewers, everybody who's always with me, been with me on Rezone. One more time, I'm saying a big thank you for those who allow me to get into the living room, into the telephone, and listening to me. A million thank you for that. Again, let me ask you to share, because whatever you're listening here, because the show is unraisonné. There's no sharing, there's nothing, it's something you can learn. I always try to bring you guesses to educate or to help you understand a better way in life. Like I said, the words matter, right? When you say to a word, when you read a book, that can make a difference into your life, into your decision, into your choices in life. Today, we're having the author of Beating, The Monster Who Loved Me, Jenan Sauls, D Sauls. Please say hi to the viewers, Jenan.
Hello, everyone.
And we're also having Mom's Got to Eat Too. I said that because I always use this, castigat ridendo more. For those who knows a lot, you got to correct everything in laughing. That gives you better strength. And I said to Wendy Archange, who's my guest also today, Mom got to eat too. Back in the day, Mom don't eat, kid eat. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we also have Mr. Jean Semelford, that's his mother. He studied psychology, I believe. And he can help me understand what we're gonna be talking about, because we need an expert bring the light to our darkness.
And he's the founder of Cactus Center, LLC.
Cactus Center. All right.
Thanks for the plug.
Please say hi to the viewers. They can see your face.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and hello to the viewers. I'm looking forward to having a very important and necessary conversation.
Guys, you know who's with me now. The meeting today is about a book written by D Sauls, Beating, and then a small letter. If you can read it, The Monster Who Loved Me. We're gonna talk about it. First and foremost, let me tell you, words matter. Listening to words can help you make a better decision. Reading a book, all right, can change your way of viewing things. And by taking an action, you might be able to reason and think prior to. It's like about 133 pages. I read it. It's sorry, real, cool. I will not say sad, because sadness exists when somebody don't share. Just like those people who study dead people. They don't study dead people because they want to study dead people. They study dead people because they want to understand the life the dead has lived, so they can better the life we're living right now. And that's one of the main reasons when somebody wrote a book, it is important, especially that book we're going to be talking about. It is important for everybody to read it. So I guarantee you will find yourself reading it. If you was not there yet, somebody you know been there. And somebody who's about to start a life can go there. So by reading, that's, as I said, bring light to your knowledge, and you will know how to approach situation like that. I mean, let's say about like years, bully exists. And sometimes people been victimized by their origins. My question is that a cause of lack of confidence? Can that create, make those kids vulnerable? Mr. Simalford, this is your feeling, just like, can a lack of confidence, can your origins, if you get bullied by that, can that impair your social life?
Absolutely. I think when we look at bullying or anything in life, we try to look at it from a very holistic understanding. So we look at genetics, we look at also what someone's child rearing experiences are, how have they been raised, what sort of traumatic experiences that they've had. So when we think of bullying, we have to think of it as a trauma, as a traumatic experience. And we have to also recognize that bullying has several impacts on people. So some folks, when they experience bullying, they feel like a way of combating that is to develop this really hyper confidence, this sort of persona, this mask or image that will protect them from being bullied. And some folks, when they get bullied, the bullying or the side effects of bullying is a bit more visible. So it varies on a spectrum, right? I would say either way, someone who's experienced bullying has a significant amount of vulnerabilities that exist for them, as well as like internalized insecurities and thoughts that does no one good when it comes to processing who they are and how they are. But of course, with our thoughts, they manifest into emotions and actions. And so I think as we'll speak in kind of Jenna's book, and Jenna, I think touched on, or D. Sauls, I apologize, right? Because we gotta rock with the D. Sauls name, the author's name. Right. But I'm sure as she discusses in her book, you can see the ways in which that plays out. Yeah, you can see some of the ways in which that plays out. So I know that was a long-winded answer because I can go on and on about that. But
thank you, Jean. Jenan, you might guess it because your name is there. D. Sauls, you the writer of Beaten. And what I will ask you really, despite your family, your brother, your sisters, your twin sisters, your cousin, mom got to eat too, don't have to eat for real. Despite that, what was your main reason? What's the reason you decided to write that book? What is it?
Okay, well, we're now experiencing COVID-19, and COVID-19 also like brings out the fact that, or the reality that a lot of people who are in the situation, the domestic violence situation, like they don't really have any escape. So just seeing that and seeing that, like I felt like it was just such a need for me to like get the message out. And then I can't say that motivation, I can't talk about that motivation without talking about Wendy. Mom's Gotta Eat Too. So like she's known for like, how long I've been talking about writing a book. Junior knows, Jean knows, Wendy knows. I've been for years talking about writing a book. And like sometimes you get a little bit discouraged, or sometimes you're scared to actually expose yourself or put yourself out there. And then I actually called, me and Wendy spoke. And then she's like, this is the perfect time. Like, this is the, the pandemic. Like, there's no more need than it is right now for you to write this book. It was like God was speaking through her to me. And it just manifested, and then look, the book is here. It's it just felt like it was just like a necessity for it.
Let me say, when the Mom Got to Eat Too, the founder of Mom Got to Eat Too, you, by your encouragement for D-Soul to write a book, you heard the story. You listened to the story. What is your feeling? What is your emotion behind that as we speak right now?
It's weird because, I used to be around all the time as, when I was a kid. And when you're a kid, you don't really know all that's going on, right? And so now that I'm of age and I'm reading the story, it's almost like, wow, I didn't even know that you were going through half of the stuff that you were going through, And it's crazy because every time when I was around, it was almost like you always had a smile. Your energy was always on point. So I would have never imagined all those things was going on. You get what I'm saying? So it's it was hard to kind of, read the story and see all that was going on, because I would have never imagined, and I never want for my family to go through situations like that, or anybody, period, let alone. But it was just, I don't know. It was tough.
I understand code, but now you know the story, you read the story, you heard about the story before the story was in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So what will be a message you will bring to somebody? Because like I said, everybody needs to read. If you don't read, you have an issue. If you don't have to read, have somebody read it for you. The reason for that, just like more knowledge you got, better your life will be.
Of course.
So now I'm talking emotion. You're a mom and you got kids, Wendy.
Mm.
All right. So based on that aspect, based on that fact, how do you see, what message can you bring to somebody really right now as we're speaking about beating? I need your emotion, Wendy.
I mean, it's me as a reader and also as a family member of the author. I was angered. I was sad and I was angered. It's not something that you want to see anybody go through, So my message would be is to seek help, to know that I know for D. Sauls' case, you have a support system behind you, And I believe that she did use and seek, solace in her family members, but not a lot of people have family members to seek or to find help from. But there are other resources that are out there that can help you, you know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily have to be in those types of situations if you don't want to be, because it has to start with the person who's going through it. They have to know that they have to get out of it. You get what I'm saying? You can tell the person they need to get out, but if they don't want to do it, they're not going to. So it's more so I can feel what I want to feel, but I'm just.
It is exactly that. Because like I said, if you sick, you don't tell me which part is hurting, I will not know what medicine to feed you. That's a fact, Wendy. You're right. But now, the title of the book, Beating. And then on the small letter, Lee, the monster who loved me. I'm gonna get the Jean input on that also, but I would like to listen to Jean first. A monster who loved me. To my understanding, maybe Jean can elaborate better for me. I don't think monster can ever love. And then monster can only love you in your sleep. When do you wake up? That's my question.
Is that to me or to Junior?
Yes, and then Jean will probably bring the light to my darkness.
Okay, so Beaton, the monster who loved me, it's entitled The Monster Who Loved Me for a reason, because like when you're going through something like this, like you never know unless you're in the situation. So of course it never starts off like the way that it ends up. Like it started off beautiful and it was a lot of love. So a lot of a lot of ways to get trapped is, or a lot of ways I guess that the abuser can manipulate, is that they'll show you the good side, they'll show you the best side of them before you get to see the actual monster. So you've already fallen in love, you already like the first time, like you know, a whole bunch of apologies that follow, I'll never do it again. And it gets to the point where like you keep believing them until you don't even realize that it's the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time, and it's still going on, because at this point it not only becomes the fact that you're in love and you know, like it's like when you're without them and then you feel empty, but you know, like they're still beating you, but they love you. And that's why at the end of the actual subtitle, The Monster Who Loved Me, is a question mark, because how can you love me and you like you're doing like you're like you're such a monster towards me.
Jean, Jean, I fix your, because I want to see all of you. You got to tilt your bingo. Now we can see you. Jean, what is your think about that? I mean, the real question is, can a monster love? When do you wake up on that? Because I mean, as a psychologist and all those knowledge, is there any way you can bring, let me repeat myself again, light to my darkness? It's dark for me right here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first off, right, that sometimes there's power in identifying monster, using the word monster, right? Because I think it's acknowledging that a person is capable of harming another person, right, to such a significant degree. But the other part of it is that a part of the person's monstrosity is also a humanity that exists. And I think sometimes when we're thinking about perpetrators or those who commit domestic violence or do the harming, that they're completely sort of just non-human, right? But the odd part about it is that a part of the love is that they were human. We fell in love with the humanity. And because we connected to that humanity of the person, right, then the monstrosity had space to sort of manifest and show itself and attack. So I think when we're thinking about that, can monsters love? Yeah, right. I think those who perpetrate or perpetrate harm towards other folks, especially in domestic violence situation, I think there is love there. Now, I think it's a misguided and misunderstood piece of love, but it's a piece about themselves that they have not rectified, correct, or address, or learn how to deal with. And so it's always easier to externalize pain than it is to address our own stuff, right? So as a monster, if I'm going to act like a monster, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to acknowledge my own deficits, my own issues, my own weaknesses, my own insecurities. What I'm going to do is in the moments where it's triggered, I'm going to lash out on someone else, right? And the person that tends to get hurt is the one that's closest to me, the one I maybe love the most, or the one who loves me the most, I would even say. So I think I don't want us to necessarily sort of separate the two. And I appreciate D. Sauls' title, because I think the question mark at the end is so significant, because it makes you question a lot of things. It makes you wonder, like, is this love, right? Which we know it's not. It's not an expression of love. But, right, do we also give space to the aspects of love that existed within the relationship? So I think I want to sort of push back on the idea of if the person wants to leave. I think people want to leave. And I think D. Saul said it like 7th, 9th time. People want to leave. They don't want to experience this. Those who are victims or survivors of domestic violence, they don't want to stay in that dynamic. What keeps them there is the idea of love and also hope, right? The desire, right, that's filled with false promises and false ideas to some extent, right? The desire that the person I love is going to change, They're going to shift. They're going to stop doing this because I actually want to be with them because of the aspects of them, the humanity and pieces that I did love about them. So I think it's a piece where sometimes if we say monster, we can, other the person, but oftentimes I think it's a piece where the two can actually, they're happening, but it's really relearning how do we actually deal with that, and also how do we encourage someone to be able to recognize like this isn't what love is, right, and this isn't something you need to stay in.
Let me say, Papi Manos, I know you're watching, Hilaire, you're watching. Let's learn because, Jean, a monster. What I'm saying, many times, people don't wake up. They just die from that love. So now, is there a way somebody can spot that at the beginning? I mean, let's say, let me talk to these Sauls first, since you're the author of that book. At what time did the victim wake up and said, it's time to bail out, it's time to go?
Like it's almost like for a lot of people, I can speak for myself, it's almost like it was never going to happen. A lot of things that happened, like Wendy said she was small, like she didn't know Gene Jr. when, like when he was smaller, like, because we were very close. So it was a lot of things that I tried to, like shelter him from. And then it was like really painful because a lot of the times where, like, sorry, I did, I want to be present and be around. I couldn't because it became a thing of fear. So it turns to love into fear. And I didn't want that around my family. So a lot of it was hidden, a lot of it was unknown. And it was by the grace of God that my abuser actually went, got locked up, went to jail, and then he was gone away for a very long time. And that's what saved me. Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, who knows? Like I would have probably still been in a situation, and I probably wouldn't even be here to be telling my story.
Jane, I'm saying is like in the book I read, a lack of confidence. That emotion, that I will call that sickness, disease. Is there any cure for that? And then, like all my listeners, people listening and people who are about to read that book, I'm addressing you to you, Jim, because that's your field, that's why you study. Is there any way somebody can just see that monster, and before you get beat by that monster, you just wake up from that dream and bail out? Is there a possibility for that?
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are possibilities, right? But I also think the other parts of it that sort of like it's not a simplified answer, because I think when we think about domestic violence or abuse, it's such a complex thing. And I think sometimes we view it as either black or white. Like if the person's hitting me or is verbally abusive, then I need to leave it. And right, it's done. It's ghost. I'm gone. But it really isn't that simple, because I think when we're thinking about connection, we're thinking about what it means for folks to connect with other people, and what love means for some people. And sometimes we learn these ideas and concepts from, our parents, from our communities, the people that we grew up with. So I think to think about a cure, right? To me, in my opinion, the cure is to teach everyone how to appropriately have a healthy relationship, right? To teach everyone, especially men, specifically how to right, deal with their own insecurities, how to heal from their own traumas. and how to understand what it means to love and engage in a healthy relationship, which means us unpacking a lot of the nonsense that we've learned about what it means to be a man growing up, and all the nonsense that we've also taught and that women or other folks have internalized around what a relationship means, right? Sometimes we view relationships about like a sense of entitlement, right? Entitlement sometimes is at the root of those things, but also using people as coping mechanisms is at the root of those things. So, I mean, it's a long list, but I don't think there's a particular cure or perfect way to identify, because sometimes we have folks who may not experience domestic violence until marriage, right? Or years within a relationship. And some folks, it's very clear and evident at first. And some folks who actually abuse or perpetrate are significantly charismatic, charming, right? Like you would look at the person, you're like, nah, this person would never do something like that, right? But in actuality, right, the person has those particular mechanisms and things within them. So I think what we want to teach people is how to look for red flags in a unhealthy relationship. And if those red flags are present, it doesn't mean that just because those red flags are there, that it's a guaranteed domestic violence situation. But I think what it tells you is that there's a propensity or probability that it's not going to be a good relationship. And so how do you yourself start making a decision or being aware of those red flags and moving away from that if you know that there's no capacity for you or that person to be in a healthy dynamic?
Big words, but again, I'm still looking for the wake-up part of it, because all my viewers, most of them are Haitian, qui t'aiment pour un petit temps pour me parler avec Haïtien, frère mio, parce que livre là, les bâtons, c'est que aux femmes qui prennent bâton, en pile bâton, non mais on est qui dit le remède. C'est une histoire qui arrive chaque jour là, en Haïti, qui arrive ici en pile tout. N'adressez en anglais parce que nous connaissons surtout ici, bien plus loi, système judiciaire a existé. Nous faisons en anglais en façon que jeunes qui ici, qui vivent aux États-Unis, qui gagnent un côté au cas courir, un côté au cas caché, ils ont demandé aide. Donc, nous faisons l'anglais pour le mais c'est pas une histoire qui histoire américaine, c'est pas une histoire haïtienne. Son histoire qui arrive en pile monde. Et même j'ai l'impression, il quand même arrivé que un garçon qui a victime même bagarre là tout. I mean, Jin, I believe you speak a bit clear, right? Can a man be into that predicament also?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to try to explain it. But again, garçon qui victime à domestic violence. And there's pas gain pure statistics, Suli, because men pas moun qui allait pour reporter bagay comme ça. So I think like that's one of the things, right? So men don't necessarily.
Les nèg la prend bâton, di cacher, il pas quitter moun connaît que femme nan bat li.
Exactly, right? Because sou on nèg fait on lot moun connaît on femme bat li, gen moun kap ri, right? Gen moun kap jugel, gen moun kap di mauvais bagay sou li, like a whole bunch of things. So I think sometimes men, right, we hide those things. Right. So there isn't much, there's statistics coming up, but there isn't a lot of statistics. But one of the statistics that we see a lot of, right, significantly tends to be women, right? One, because it happens at a significant amount. And you can almost say that it's equivalent, like one of the top 2 causes of death for women, right? That domestic violence is that serious for females, for women in this world. Right, not even like you said, because I know you said it's not an issue just in the U.S. or Haiti; it's an issue everywhere, and unfortunately, that is the case. But yeah, I would say that there are male victims. They're less likely to go and get help.
I mean, I don't know because in the book, the author, Sauls said, "The monster who loved me." And then from that point of view, have the strength to write that book. That's telling me you are up now, you're not sleeping no more. Where do you get strength after that to cope with love again? Can there ever be love after that, after being loved by a monster?
Okay, so absolutely there can be love after a situation like that, but it's just a matter of you actually believing in yourself, and how Jean said, like with self-esteem, and just pretty much moving on. Like, unfortunately, a lot of people, it's like with a situation like that, they do become traumatized, and a lot of people don't get over it, and a lot of people do. Like, everyone deals with this situation, differently. But I was just fortunate enough to have, like, unfortunately, due to the fact that I did keep it hidden for a very long time. But when it did come out, I was fortunate enough to have an amazing, like, support team. Like, I'm very blessed to have a wonderful family, wonderful friends who support it. So in the interim, if you like, you can find love, because after you've been like hurt so many times, and you actually find that person that can make you feel like it's okay. Like, I'm not gonna hit you. Like, you can speak your mind, or you can be yourself, and a punch in the face or a slap in the mouth is not going to follow. So it's a beautiful thing to go from experiencing to experience something other than being beaten. So yeah, you can definitely find love after that, if you want to.
Wendy, mam cheke Creole. You bet ki remem
As for my Creole.
your Creole. Let me check your Creole. Est-ce que you bet ka, parce que me sakrive. Let me say it in English. I'm looking at the dog. They made love. Is that love? They just have like intercourse, right? But this is not what how I define love. Comment you bet ka remem moi-même? Wendy, bon petit Creole, s'il te plaît, it's not my fault. Je n'ai pas nous parler bon créole qu'on y a, mais problème beau.
But okay, hold on, let me brush Creole. Well, on parle d'un bête comme si like dans ce sens ça, oui, quand il y a une bête qui ou quand il y a une bête là, bête ou bête ou une bête là comme like a pet, or but faut qu'on ait dans tête tout que bête là sont bête liées. Ça veut dire n'importe les livres attaquer ou le cas attaquer. You get what I'm saying? So back on them simka prononce ça because
On parle bien, continue.
because on parle de moun avec bête, ça c'est deux bagages différents. Vous comprenez? Because on connaît animal, c'est animalier, so baga dit que à cause bête la quand moi on connaît les bab modem ouais. No, c'est pas, that's not true, because at the end of the day, on connaît que c'est un bête lié, n'importe les cas on bagage qui a changé n'importe les puis on connaît le cas modem ouais, but avec un monde it's I don't know, on petit genre différent, Baka.
Let me help you with that. When the human, we are animal with reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's what make a difference between us and the tiger and the lion, because we can think. But at the minute, at the time where I am with you, there's an issue. We cannot talk it out. We cannot explain, justify it, or find reason within you an animal, and I got to get out. Jen, help me with it.
Well, I mean, so I think the thing is not being able to find reason doesn't make it animalistic between two people, right? So I think sometimes people disagree, right? And people
Let me
may
keep it low. Let me keep it low, Jim.
uh
I'm with somebody, right? And
yeah.
we're living together. And we cannot talk. When there's an issue and I'm bringing the issue, you're gonna be driving crap out of me.
Yeah. So I think that's an oversimplification of how it happens, right? So I think sometimes when we look at domestic violence, it's a buildup, right? So it may not start off with me beating the living crap out of you, right? It may start off with me saying some mean things, and me start off with me having an attitude, and then sometimes it escalates, right? It escalates to the beating the living crap out of you sometimes, right? And that's the difference. So I think sometimes when we look at domestic violence, we look at it as like, oh, it's going to happen just like that, when that's not the case all the time. So I would even say and argue that like victims or survivors of domestic violence, they're woke during the process. I think we ignore all the dangers that come with leaving a situation like that. So you may have a person who's in a domestic violence situation and they know they want to leave, but the person that they're right, the monster, right, that's loving them or being with them is not just threatening them, right? It could be a threat to their family. It could be a threat to their finances. It could be a threat to their reputation. It could be a threat to so many things, right? And so it's not just a combination or just I'm going to promise you love and be better. It's also like the consistent fear tactics that are being implemented and that are also being like joined in with that. So I think like I don't want to negate that victims or survivors are not awake during that process. They're very much so awake and they understand what's happening, but it's also not a very simple thing for them to be able to leave safely. And trust me, like, you know, as a person who's worked with a significant amount of survivors, right, statistics will show it and stories have shown that it's taken them several times before they can leave. And it's taken them several times because of different reasons. So I mean, like and I appreciate Wendy's answer and her beautiful Creole. Like it was smooth. So you're on point, right? You know, but I appreciate her answer that an animal is an animal, right? You know that an animal is there. You know that if that's a snake over there, you are not going near that snake. You don't need to know if it's poisonous or not. You're not going over there, right? A person is a lot more. I won't even say a little bit. Is a lot more complex. Now, with people, what we can understand is patterns, right? People have patterns too, but sometimes it's a little harder to pinpoint those patterns and to also tell when it's going to escalate to something that's very dangerous or life-threatening.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few people comment like David Stoddard will say you got to be strong inside. But my thinking, Wendy or Jenna or G, if you can say, if you are blind by love, if you don't love with your eyes open, like the Bible, I love to quote the Bible, the big book. In the Bible, they said, watch and pray. They don't say pray and watch, but watch. Because sometimes you got to pray, you got to keep your eyes open and see who's next to me, if that animal ain't gonna jump me. Because like there's one of viewers, Easton Pierre will say, you'll be surprised. For you not to be surprised, you got to keep your eyes open. Is that possible?
I can answer. Well, so I think a part of it, honestly, is that it's so one the thing about love is that love essential in love is vulnerability, right? Essential in love is being open, being able to be transparent and honest, be your full self with that person. And so I think if you're loving correctly, right, then that's what's happening in the process. Now, if abuse is happening, abuse isn't love. And I mean, the title is dope, but I think it's also a separate thing, right? It's two separate things. Abuse is not love, even though sometimes, right, love is used to rationalize abuse, right? Like I'm doing this because I love you. I'm only this mad and this angry because I love you. When you want somebody who cares about you this much, right? Like that's using love to excuse abuse, but that's not actually love. So I think you could be cautious, right? And you can have your eyes open, but I think to be in love or to deal in love is to still deal in risk, right? It's a risky thing to love, to date, to connect with somebody. It's all a risk. But what we want to do is watch out for abuse, right? Like that's different, right? We can love, but we also want to be mindful of patterns of abuse or patterns that could potentially lead up to abuse. And I think it's important to separate those two and have two different conversations and two different conversations that are still together.
Like Debbie said, somebody can pretend they love you. In fact, love is not there. And like I phrase it, I said, we as people are animals with reason. That's the gift. We can reason, we can think, like the Latin say, cogito ergo sum. I'm thinking, therefore I exist. And I am saying, for the sake of love, if I'm with someone and I'm living with you, is there a way I can like compare looking at what I see on TV or the book I read, the show I read, and then put my life, visual, the way I'm living right now versus what I'm saying? Can that be a possibility for me to wake up and say, hey, this is not it. I got to get out. I got to go.
Okay, so like Jean said before, it's like you're woke, right? Like through my situation, like I was woke. Like I knew that it wasn't a healthy situation. I knew that I had to get out. I knew that I had to leave. And each time that I tried, it was something that reared me back in. It's like, unfortunately, like they know how to manipulate, they know how to pull on your heartstrings. And me being a person, anyone who knows me, having a very big heart, it's like I always try to give, like the benefit of the doubt. But unfortunately, I gave too much benefits of the doubts with my abuser. But a lot of times I did try to leave. And unfortunately, it became a factor of not only my safety, but threatening my family as well. So as Gene Jr. said, as he mentioned, that it's not the fact that, most victims aren't woke. It's like we're woke, but it's not as easy. Like someone on the outside looking in could be like, that, like, why hasn't she left already? Like, that's so stupid. Like, how could you stay in a situation like that? But it's not that simple. Unfortunately, it's never that simple.
In situation I cannot judge because till you live it, you have to make your own reason, you make your own judgment about it. But what I'm saying is, Jean, if Wendy can help me on that, is that for like unlucky person, the first time you encounter love, what you call love, and you get faced to an animal. If you have like experience on that, you have been with somebody. Is that something what happened to first comers in relationship, or can also somebody who been there before get blind into a relationship? Jim.
Wait, okay, all right. Wanted to see if mom's got to eat, got something prolific because y'all been dropping gems. But so that I think it's both, right? A person who's new to a relationship can experience, a person who's experienced in relationships can experience it. So I think when it comes to like domestic violence or things of that sort, it's not it's so common that it's like one of those very loud, it's like a huge pink elephant in the room that sometimes we don't pay attention to or acknowledge, but we know that it's in the room and it takes up a lot of space. So it's a situation where you can have someone who's new to a relationship, right, who maybe is dating for the first time and they experience those things. And you can have someone who's particularly very experienced and seasoned, that they experience it. The thing about domestic violence or those who perpetrate abuse is that they've been so, how do I say? You could say they're almost expert in their abuse without recognizing their own expertise, right? Like they're prolific in their abuse, right? They're skilled in their abuse. So it's to a point that if there is if there's a vulnerability, a connection with that person, the person, whether consciously or subconsciously, they're going to pull on that, right? So I think Jenna's example was perfect, right? If you know that you're dealing with someone who is a giving person, who's a sweetheart, who wants to see the best for everybody and wants to see that person grow, and I'm an abuser and I want to do everything to keep the situation as it is, to keep my partner here, right, and to keep it rolling, I'm going to pull on that, right? It's almost easy to know that I can do that. And sometimes it's with a person, if I know that the person may not be the giving person, but they care about their family a lot, right? So let's say it's not that they're a sweetheart and things of that nature, but they care about their family a lot. So if that's something that I want them to stay, right, I'm going to play on that. And same goes. It could be that even if the person is not a sweetheart and they don't care about money and family, but because they have a conscience, I can use my own life as a way to keep them there. So sometimes you'll have abusers threaten to kill themselves, right? Or threaten to harm themselves to keep the situation that's problematic or that's not good. So it's so many tactics and things that are there. And we talk about the cycle of domestic violence, right? It's about like, it's the reward, the honeymoon phases, then it goes into the abuse, and then it intensifies, and then it goes back into the honeymoon phase, and then it circles. But all of those things have other categories and pieces in it. So once again, I don't think it's a simple subject to sort of speak on, and I don't think there's like this aha moment that's like, oh, I got to get out of this, right? I think it happens as soon as something problematic happens. There's an aha moment. I know what's going on, but I'm scared to leave, and I'm also trying to be hopeful that maybe it'll change because the monster who loved me, right? Because if I believe they love me, then in turn I'm loving them. And what do we do for the people that we love, right? I mean, if people think about their own families, their own friends, how many families or friends that we have that are just like, they're a little messed up, but we still do everything that we can for them. We still give, the shirts off our back. We still give our last dollar. We still maintain these relationships and friendships. So I think if we can understand that, then we can also understand why some folks may not leave as soon as we believe they should.
Let me say to everybody watching, I'm not bragging about my show. On Rezone here is something you should share and watch because you're learning something. That is story. And let me say, I have the privilege to receive today the first interview by the author D Sauls from Beating I Got That. Big up to Unresonate. But we got to be real about it. Maybe I don't have to love. Maybe something, because I am patient. I can stay for 10, 15 years. But I'm telling you, I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm watching because by knowing the gospel of the word of God, I'm praying by watching. So, I mean, let me ask, after a type of experience, so, I mean, when you find somebody else different than that monster, how do you develop a type of trust? How does that happen? Jen?
I mean, like it's not easy, but like you can feel the difference. So it's a big difference from getting beaten to actually being loved. So despite that fact that, like you were in an abusive relationship and, like it's hard, it was traumatic, but actually getting out of it and surviving it and then being with someone that's the total opposite, it's not that hard to gravitate and to want to embrace being loved than being beaten. I mean, from my own personal experience, I would rather be loved than to be beaten. And I'm sure a lot of victims or anyone can agree, not even with just domestic violence, just like in relationships, period. Anyone would prefer a healthy relationship opposed to an unhealthy relationship.
Moms got to eat too. What is your saying on that, Willie? I mean, have you ever, I mean, you listen to the story, you read them, but as a mom raising your kid, what can a mom, Jean, I would like to have your input on that. What can a parent do to protect kids from that? I mean, from the book, from beating, and there's something I want to say is very important. Most of the time, it happened because of the lack of money from the parents who live in that zone where your surrounding is bad. And by living in that bad area, that can impact the life of your kid. How does somebody bail out from that? Mom got to eat too.
Well, as a mom, my job is to make sure that I lay down the best foundation that I can for my kids. So that's with giving them love. That's with giving them and showing them, self-confidence, how to boost their self-esteem, not waiting for somebody to tell them, oh, they look like, oh, you're pretty. No, you should know that for yourself. So every time you look up and you look in the mirror, you tell yourself, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, giving them affirmations to know that they don't have to wait for somebody to tell them that. So I try to give them tools so that if I'm not there, they are equipped to know that, I'm solid, and it's all about the foundation. I think no matter what walks of life, whether you have money or you don't have money, what area you're around, I mean, you're gonna probably come across, domestic violence, no matter where you are, and we said that in the beginning. But I think it's just, it comes down to raising the child and laying down foundations so that they can, I guess, in a sense, how can I put this into words?
Emotional, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. I know that I won't be there every step of the way, right? And that's why I'm doing my best now to equip them with the tools that they need so that if I am not there, if their father is not there, that, they'll be able to handle themselves in, any situation that life brings them. I can only pray and hope for the best,
Pray and watch. And I read the book, there's a part of the book, gen yon pati nan liv la, ou Haitien Captain Demio, côté le fait que Dissol fait Haïti, le vini ici, et puis les bully parti américain noir, li di m'pa rentre sa nan politique. This is my life. This is what's happening right now in this country. Saying white people are this, white people are that. And then you forget to acknowledge we all are Black. African American, Haitian American, I don't care, from Trinidad, from Jamaica, wherever you came from. And I always say it is one race, the human race. But again, we go back to that book I read. There's a lot of attention, and I'm telling everybody watching the show, you're gonna watch it on YouTube. Please get a book. The story is real. The story is cool. I will not call it a sad story whenever somebody can learn from a story and better yourself on that. Is not a sad story. A sad story is a story will never been told. And it's guaranteed, as I said, if you don't find yourself in that book, you will find somebody you know, a sister, an aunt, a mother. And by doing so, you might be able, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist. You might be able to put a chain on that person's legs and drag that person out till he see the daylight. And I recommend everybody to read that book. But Jen, after that story, is there any way you can define love? And when the knowing that story also, will that change your view on how you guys see love? And Jean, I will have your input on that also.
Okay, so after experiencing something as traumatic as that, of course, there's a way that you can experience and find love again and appreciate and embrace it, as I've stated earlier. Like after that tumultuous abusive relationship, I did find love again, and it's an amazing and it's a beautiful feeling. And what I do want to say to the unfortunate people who are experiencing that you're not alone, and you are strong, and there are way more outlets than what they were when I went through it, where like you can be helped, like you don't have to stay in this situation, and people will believe you, and then people can, like, you can be helped. And that was the main reason for me to write the book, is just to motivate. If I can help just one person reading this book to read my story, to see what I've been through, and to see where I'm at now, that's a blessing for me within itself.
Wendy?
I believe in every relationship in life, there are lessons learned from it, right? And so there is love outside of what happened with Jen. And she said that she experienced love after. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a lesson learned. You get what I'm saying? And not everybody is that person. Do you get? So, and that's something that people also have to realize too. That's just with any relationship. Like, because you went through something someplace, like you went through something before, it's not necessarily that it's going to happen again, or that same person those are two different relationships. And so therefore you've been through it, the lesson has been learned. Hopefully through that lesson, the cues and the red flags. And so, if you do see a red flag, you know how to approach the situation and know what to do for next time. But there's definitely love after, for sure. I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, I second that. I think the love that's essential, right, is, or that needs repairing, especially after a situation like that, is the love for yourself. Because I think going through abuse or domestic violence, right, there's a destruction of who you are, a destruction of your value. And I think when a person is working towards repairing their value, repairing their worth, you know, that's a part of the learning to love process, right? So the more you love yourself, the more you understand what you're looking for from other folks, right? And also, you know, I think I commend even just Wendy when she's talking about her kids. I think the best way to, one of the best ways to avoid a situation like that is to emulate what healthy relationships look like for our kids, right? And what it looks like if a relationship isn't healthy, right? Because I think there's a difference between unhealthy relationship and abusive, right? And sometimes they go hand in hand, but sometimes they don't. But I think it's important for us to show our kids, right, what it looks like to, right, end an unhealthy relationship that's right in a healthy way. What it looks like to separate, what it looks like to love our kids, what it looks like to love ourselves, what it looks like to respect. Because at the end of the day, domestic violence, if we're removing love out of the conversation, at the bare minimum, what we want is respect, right? You cannot love a person, you cannot like them, but you damn sure need to respect them. And so I think if you at least respect a person, then I think that's essentially one of the cures to domestic violence, right? If I respect you enough to know that we're going to disagree and we're disagreeing, but I don't need to dismantle you, break you down, hurt you physically, then I think that's enough.
I'll say thank you to my panel, D Souls. I'm saying one thing here. God bless you, because for somebody to survive and write the story, that's a gift from God. Some people did live past that. So many have died through that issues. And I'm not saying not to love, I don't know. I'm loving with my eyes open. That's me. All right. But for those who want to love blindly, I will recommend get some knowledge before you embark into any book. Before you get into a book, read that book and more. All right. That will help you go through in life because, like they said, people who knows better than me, you need to know to prevent. You need to prevent to act. So if you can put those together, that might give you strength to go through life without facing those situations. And then on this, what I'm saying, Matias on the way, thank you. Maria Nunez, thank you. Louis Germain, thank you. Aliyah Peace, thank you to whomever was watching and listening. I'm saying thank you. And I'm saying thank you to D Souls for giving me your first interview on the book. And I'm saying thank you to Wendy Materia as mom got to eat too, which I'm against. Mom don't have to eat. And I'm saying thank you to Jean for your support. And then to all of you, may God bless you. May God assist you. May God protect you. And watch and Rezone, read the book that can help you go through life.
Gotta eat too. I mean, be in the master who loves me.
I love that.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. One love. Jean, you got one more word to say? I will let you close for me.
Me or Jenna?
Yes, you.
Oh.
En Creole.
That's the struggle. Passez bon journée. Take care.
Wait, I want to say my Creole too.
I don't know.
What the? Okay. Am I on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, merci tout le monde pour garder show. S'il te plaît, achetez livre moi. Beating the master who loved me. Yeah.
I am mon Creole. Wendy.
Et, merci pour l'invitation. J'étais bien amusé moi. Et puis tout le monde passe une bonne soirée. Et puis that's it.
I'm sure that everybody who's watching the show, you learn something. Everybody gonna watch the show on YouTube. Please pay attention to the words. Words got meaning. Words got value. And more you know, more you learn, better is your life. On this word, I say thank you guys, and may God bless you.
Bye.
Bye. Et puis tout le monde passe un bon